Welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Louise Watt. In August, anti-immigration protests and far-right riots erupted on the streets of the UK. A former head of the Russia desk at British intelligence agency MI6 says there's clear Russian involvement. Is the unrest in the UK linked to President Putin's Russia? And how might this impact Russia's relations with Europe, the UK and the US? Joining us today are Arthur Ding from National Chengchi University, Professor Emeritus, Leonard Chao, National Tsinghua University Adjunct Professor, and Marc Cheng, CEO of the European Union Centre in Taiwan. Gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the unrest that swept England was triggered by a mass stabbing in the northern city of Southport on July the 29th. 3 young girls were fatally stabbed and 8 other children were injured, along with 2 adults. Misinformation spread by far-right groups said wrongly that the suspect was a Muslim asylum seeker. And then anti-immigration riots spread to 25 towns and cities, targeting mosques, police officers, and hotels housing asylum seekers. More than 1,000 people have been arrested, and more than half of these have been charged so far. Now, Marc, this recent unrest is a test for new Prime Minister Keir Starmer. How do you think he's fared so far?
Just probably less than 2 months, he, run the government and encountered this kind of tragedy. And these riots actually kind of the test for his ability or accountability for the government. So I think, there definitely is challenges for the current UK government, how he's capable to deal with these challenges. And not only the party, but himself as a leader, whether he's capable to lead the UK while facing, probably would be more situation like this. The immigration is only part of the challenges the UK government is facing. So I would say that definitely it's a shock to the society. It's a shock at the same time to the government that they didn't expect it, that they will have to face these difficult stations just 20 or less than 50 days. But I would say that it's a challenge, probably is also an opportunity for the UK government to demonstrate they really have the ability to change the UK.
Well, I mean, Keir, he's upset some people in his party because, first of all, he said, oh, this is all down to far-right groups. And he's upset some people because he doesn't seem willing to explore, well, are there any other causes or reasons for this? And as you say there, Marc, immigration is a big one. It was at the centre of this. Why is immigration such an issue in today's Britain, do you think? Let's stay with Marc for a moment.
I think, immigration's become a very visible issue after the Brexit. I mean, even during the Brexit, because that's the reason why the people choose to leave European Union. The reason is actually simple that, a lot of people can now say that, these immigration, these migrants, they actually take over their job, they actually create burden for society, they have a more miserable life than before. So all this kind of rhetoric is actually, put the UK leave the European Union because they want to take back control. But the problem is that after the Brexit, whether UK really take back control of these immigrations or migrations. And not only the illegal part, but for the legal part as well. So I would say that, it's actually quite complicated question because at the same time, the UK need the labor from outside world to help the UK to maintain, for example, national health care systems, to do some, need the worker or even teachers, to maintain the basic, function of those systems. But at the same time, the the people are worried about, there's more rising up of immigration's number will again put, their life into a miserable again. So I would say that, definitely migration is, the people will feel immediately. If you talk about national security, probably it's a little bit far away, but you can see the asylum seekers around you come to your town. Then you see the people, around. They're waiting for the process to be admitted into the system. But during the waiting time, they find that probably there will be some kind of security, threat to their community. So all this actually put, the people quite cautious and, worry about, their life getting worse because of these legal or illegal migrations.
So there was simmering tensions there, not too far below the surface on immigration. But how did it escalate into what it has? I mean, more than 25 towns and cities saw protests, so much violence, hundreds of people arrested. Professor Chao, how did some comments on social media by far-right groups end up with the biggest protests that Britain has seen in years?
Well, okay, the Brexit is actually a result of a kind of accumulated issues. Immigration is only one of them. As a matter of fact, as you might recall, about 8 years ago, when the referendum for the British departure from the EU,
I remember it
passed.
well.
20. You're from there. You might recall that vividly. As a matter of that, accumulated reason. A lot of things happened. Not only the immigration, job opportunity for the Britons, but also for the economic downturn, for the social, social instability. So a lot of the reasons lead to the result of this kind of Brexit, unfortunately. But ever since the Brexit became a reality, look what happened. Did that make the UK more stable, more prosperous, more promising? Or all the old issues got solved? Look at what happened. The riot, the protest. Obviously, no, it was not resolved. It's getting even worse. So I think it's about time. It's about time for the new government. I really sincerely wish the new PM Starmer good luck, because his prime ministership ended a long streak of frequent and the leadership rotation. We have seen so many prime ministers coming and going.
Conservative prime ministers.
In the past almost a decade. So it's unfortunate. It's not a good thing. It's not a good sign for the UK's future. So a lot of people are talking about.
But then Starmer hasn't said that he would take Britain back into the European Union. So how could he possibly fix all this?
I wish him, he can carry out the real promise. That's a good thing for him, good for him, and good for the Britain people.
Professor
But I
Tsing.
don't. That remains to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah, as Professor Chao mentioned, after the Brexit, the inflation went up, and also the export declining, and also we should not forget the COVID-19. The get worse for the whole economy in the Great Britain. So in the past 1 or 2 years, we see all kinds of strike from all the social sectors. The nurse, even university professors also went to street to strike. So even police. So you can see, probably except the military. So I would say the all kinds of problem for the economic problem in the so-called United Kingdom. So it will be a daunting task and a very tough job for new prime minister to address all kinds of these problems. But we should not forget the COVID-19. The get worse. The problems mentioned by Professor Chao, so-called the Brexit. Yeah.
Yes, and of course there's a lot of buyer's remorse. People who voted to leave now regret it. Now, as you've all said there, you all agree immigration was a factor for people voting to leave. But if we actually look at the figures, so a lot of people, they thought immigration was too high, but then in recent years, UK's migration figures have gone higher. And actually, the UK's population is growing at its fastest pace since the 1960s. As one example, in 2022, the British population increased by an estimated 764,000 people. That's more than 1%, and it also increased by more than 1% last year. So Britain voted to leave the European Union. People who voted said, hey, it was because of immigration. But now Britain's left, migration, the figures are going up. What's going on, Professor Ding?
Those number we just read, we just saw, actually they are legal immigrants. Because, this, I would say, after Soviet Union collapse, we saw the so-called globalization. Globalization means that the factory moving from Western country to less developed country like Eastern Europe or even China. So we can see, with this kind of shifting, the globalization and the shifting of the factories, globally. So those for the blue-collar laborers, they lose their jobs. But on the other hand, because they get high pay because they are the union laborers, but they cannot do the lower paid jobs. So those so-called immigrants, they come in, study in the UK, and after graduate, they fill in those jobs left by the so-called the high labor workers. They used to participate in the labor unions. So that's why we see so many new immigrants. They are legal immigrants coming to UK to fill in those jobs left by the the high labor workers. So this can partially explain why. And I would say this is a common phenomenon for all the Western countries, because all the Western countries, they face the same problems. The globalization, shifting out the factories, the blue-collar workers, they lose their job, but they still need to, the new immigrants to fill in those, the job left by, high labor workers. So this can partially explain why although, the Brexit, the situation gets worse, but for those new immigrants, particularly from those developing countries, for instance, from African countries, probably, UK still is a good opportunity for them to raise their families and, to have so-called decent life.
Okay, so tensions simmering there on the surface. Immigration, Brexit, all issues with this. But also now there's this allegation that Russia was also behind the riots. We had Christopher Steele, who is the former Russia head of the Russia desk at MI6. He was saying that there was clear Russian involvement, allegations that Russian-linked websites were behind this. What's your view on that, Professor Chao?
Well, as a matter of fact, the Russian so-called disinformation is nothing new. Okay, actually, they have this kind of campaign, doing with a certain country since 1920s, as early as 1920s. And according to the definition of the so-called the Great Soviet Encyclopedia, they say that they have to use, quote, and I say, we have to use the false information to deceive, the public opinion of the certain countries. So from that point on, this information has been, which consists of the so-called false news, fake news, and also the information manipulation. Okay, this is not only to disrupt, not only to deceive the public opinion of certain countries, but also they hope to, with the aim to disrupting the domestic politics of the countries. So that has become a tactic for the Soviets in the conduct of their political warfare. And then now of course, this kind of imagination, I think, is not groundless. Because look at what happened in the UK now, with no offense. After the Brexit, we have seen not very few positive development for the external and the internal development of the UK.
And there have been accusations that Russia was also meddling in the Brexit.
That's right.
And actually a British parliamentary committee,
That's right.
they said that the government should have asked questions on that, but basically the government didn't really want to go there.
That's
but
right.
they've definitely, the British parliamentary committee said that Russia was meddling in the 2014 Scottish referendum anyway. And we should say here that the Kremlin says that it's never interfered with any other country's electoral processes.
Yeah, we're sorry to see the UK become a kind of divided. Okay, become the Brexit has somehow diluted their national unity, sense of national unity, and also weakened the social cohesion within the UK. So that would be vulnerable to some possible Russian disinformation.
So is that what President Putin's goal would be? Does he want to weaken Western societies? And why would the UK be one of his, in the words of this British parliamentary report, one of his top Western targets, Marc?
I think not forget that now we still have a Russia-Ukraine war. So you can definitely tell that the Russia try to weaken every single enemy who might be support the Ukraine. So to weaken the support is actually guarantee the victory of Russia. So and you can tell that UK is very active in supporting Ukraine. At the beginning, even the civil society, even some retired or even current soldier actually want to devote themselves into the war. So we can tell that UK actually show a sort of leadership in the beginning against the invasions of Russia. So no wonder that Russia try to downplay the UK, to divide it. The society of UK, to weaken the UK and remind the people that you have a trouble inside, so you should focus your own economic growth, immigrations. So then not forget about the inflections. So if you don't support Ukraine, everything will be resolved. So give up. So I think definitely it will be a kind of effect to other countries who actually suffering the same challenges. Then probably will have to think twice that whether they should continue to support the Ukraine. So I think it definitely is a strategy. It's a kind of approach that Russia not aim to certain specific countries, actually aim to all who might a threat to their war to the Ukraine.
Yes, and as you say there, Britain has given a lot of support to Ukraine. It's given all kinds of weapons, and in fact, in recent days, we've seen video come from Ukraine with British-donated Challenger 2 battle tanks. They were used by Ukraine as part of its surprise incursion into Russia. But, how solid is this support, this British support for Ukraine under the new government? Because might the UK face a difficult decision if Donald Trump wins a second term in the US, given that he said he would withdraw support from Ukraine? Given that special relationship between London and Washington, Professor Ding, could we see British support for Ukraine reducing?
That is, I would say, it's kind of a reasonable speculation. But if Donald Trump comes back for his second terms, I don't think I think the European country probably will continue to support the Ukraine, because anyway, Ukraine is a European issue. It's not an American issue, although America is a global power. But in terms of a perception of threat, no, the Russian invasion of the Ukraine will be perceived as more threatening in European countries than probably the United States, I would say. So that's why my own guess is that even President Trump come back, if he won the election in November, although traditionally Great Britain and the United States, they work closely and cooperate closely, but I would say probably for the whole European countries' interest, probably United Kingdom will continue to provide support to Ukraine, because I would say the perception threat is different between European countries and the United States. Yeah. So I think the UK will continue to provide support, although UK is really encountered very difficult situation domestically. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, as you say, European countries, they're much closer to the situation that's going on there. But the US could bring some weight to bear, as far as demanding that they spend more, contribute more to NATO and so forth. But Professor Chao, how do you see this? Do you think British and European support for Ukraine will stand firm, even if Donald Trump wins another term in the White House?
Well, my answer would be twofold. Number one, that who can ever, sincerely, honestly believe whatever Donald Trump said? Can we trust, his words? Let's recall that used to be Kim Jong-un is my friend, but turned out to be and then Xi Jinping also friend. So then there's a kind of the relationship getting sour. So Donald Trump's words, we have to keep it, for reasonable, speculation and observation. Now, secondly, that about the UK support for Ukraine, I think that recently, just not too long ago, Mr. Zelensky had a visit to London, where he met with not only Prime Minister Starmer, but also the new Defense Secretary, John Healey. John Healey told him very specifically that the UK will continue providing some necessary military weapons to Ukraine, but they will not help Ukrainians hit targets in Russia. That's kind of keep a very moderate size of support for Ukraine. So in other words, that the UK will not get involved with a possible war, okay, between the Ukrainian and Russia. So now that remains to be seen. So I don't think that the UK will withdraw the support from for Ukraine, but also they will not go any further to do more than what they are doing now.
Well, I mean, the defense minister under the Conservative government said back in 2022 that actually that Ukraine could use British weapons on Russian soil if necessary, if it was to defend, for instance, under international law. So, for instance, they could hit air bases, and if it was in self-defense. And so we kind of see that a little with the latest incursion into Kursk. But just in the last few minutes of the program, I just want to move back onto more of the myriad of problems facing Britain. And in addition to the far-right riots, in addition to the fallout from Ukraine, rising inflation and all of that, there's bad news on the millionaire front. Millionaires are leaving the United Kingdom. So according to Henley & Partners, they're an investment immigration consultancy, they estimate that up to 9,500 millionaires will leave the United Kingdom this year. That's twice the number that left in 2023. And only China is set to lose more millionaires. Britain used to be seen as an attractive destination for migrating millionaires. Marc, why is it changing?
Of course, UK economy actually encounters quite severe challenges due to all these reasons above. But I would say that if we examine, the King's speech, so we can see that, at the beginning of 2016, afterward, they talk about Brexit, then COVID, then Russia, Ukraine. But this year, they talk about economic growth. They put economic growth as a priority for the UK's future. It shows that, they know where's the problem. If you don't have a strong economy, the UK, famous for their financial center, you need a strong economic support for that. So without economic growth, that UK is not as strong as before. So how to rebuild, reputation of the UK in a world, global trade, economy, and others, is actually a very vital, issue now. So you can tell that all the Labour Party put economic growth, number one, clean energy, or the superpower of the energy as number 2 is all to dealing with these kind of challenges. So I would say that they know the problems, but we have to wait and see whether the Labour Party can deliver their promise.
Yes. And do either of you have anything else to say about what the UK can do? How much of a problem is it with all these millionaires moving elsewhere? Where are they going? That's what I want to know. Where would you go if you were a millionaire?
From if I may humbly add up some words, that from a broader perspective, that look at the situation in Europe overall, that the 3 major European countries, since the last century, the UK is one of the leading, alongside France and Germany, West Germany. But now, Germany and France, they have played kind of certain major roles in the European and even international affairs. Scholz and Macron. But UK, in comparison, seem to be kind of a sidelined or kind of playing a minor role. So I think it's about time for the UK trying to keep up. So I sincerely, what I said earlier, that I'd like to repeat that. I sincerely wish, your home country, your new leader, the best of luck and every success. But after all, the new Labour government, they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do.
All right, well, we'll be watching them as they set forth on their term and see what they can get done over the next few years. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you for joining us as well. And if you liked our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching Taiwan Talks. Stay safe. See you next time.